in other words, Revelation 12:17 is saying that the serpent or the dragon was going to be enraged with the remnant of her seed. Her seed is Jesus, so the remnant of her seed would be those who were born from Jesus, the seed's seed, if you please. Now, you say, why do you bring this to view? There's a very important reason. You see, in the book of Revelation, Babylon is not a literal city, geographically defined. Babylon, according to what we've studied, is a worldwide system that is at enmity with the people of God. The woman, who is called Babylon, the harlot, is symbolic. The wine that she gives is symbolic. Her fornication is symbolic. The river that she sits on is symbolic. It represents multitudes, nations, tongues, and peoples. In other words, Babylon is not literal Babylon over in the Middle East. Babylon is a worldwide, global, spiritual system. Now, who is the great enemy of Babylon in Scripture? Folks, the great enemy of Babylon in Scripture is Israel. Now, let me ask you, if Babylon is global or worldwide and spiritual, that must mean that Israel must also be global and spiritual. Are you understanding what I'm saying? The citizens of Babylon in Revelation are not citizens of the old city in the Middle East. They're citizens of a worldwide apostate system. And so Israel, the enemy of Babylon, must also be a worldwide spiritual system. And you say, why do you bring this to view? You see, most churches today, most Protestant churches, at least of the conservative brand, have a very interesting idea about Bible prophecy. They teach that God has two mutually exclusive peoples. The first people of God are the literal Jews. In other words, literal Israel. The second group that belongs to God, or the second people that God has, is the Christian church. And they believe that God has two totally different plans for literal Israel and for the church. They actually believe that the church is going to be raptured to heaven 7 years before the glorious coming of Jesus. And then after the spiritual people of God are raptured to heaven, then God will begin His plan again for the literal Jews. And some even teach that throughout eternity, God is going to have a heavenly people and He's going to have an earthly people. He's going to have two peoples, literal Israel and the Christian church. Now this has very strong implications for what we're going to study in our next lecture. Because we're going to notice that according to Scripture, there is only one seed, who is Jesus Christ. And there's only one seed's seed, which are His people from all ages. And I want you to notice in 10 specific points how the Bible teaches that God has only one Israel, one true people that are not geographically defined, but they're defined by their relationship to Jesus Christ. So we're going to study 10 points. The first point is that God has only one fold. Jesus has only one fold. Notice John chapter 10 and verse 16. John chapter 10 and verse 16. Jesus says, "And other sheep I have which are not of this fold." Who are those other sheep that are not of this fold? This fold is Israel. Jesus says, "I was not sent but to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." He says several times in the Gospels. So it says, He says, "And other sheep I have which are not of this fold. Them also I must" what? "I must bring."